On February 13th, 2015, Drake released his commercial mixtape, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. And here's what I thought. So it's been 5 years since Mr. Drizzy, Aubrey Graham, the Sixth God, Jimmy, better known as Drake, released his commercial mixtape, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. And to this day, I gotta say that it still bangs the same way. Whoa, am I Drake? For whatever reason you've been living under a rock, Drake is the Canadian singer, songwriter, rapper, producer, and businessman, according to his Wikipedia page. I guess he's been dealing with the Raptors. Okay, cool. I'll always personally remember and think of him as Jimmy from Degrassi, but that's just me. He's basically been one of the biggest names in music in the entire planet over the past decade. He exploded onto the scenes in the early 2010s. His album Take Care won the 2013 Grammy for Best Rap Album. And up to 2015, Drake had released a bunch of mixtapes and 3 full-length albums at that point, making this his 4th mixtape in 2015. And honestly, in 2015, I hadn't listened to any of it. I was living in Toronto, so I obviously knew who he was. I thought Started From the Bottom was pretty decent, but really otherwise, this was all new to me. But then I heard Know Yourself. Running through the 6 with my woes. And then it hit me. I would run, I had woes, and I was in the 6. I was Drake. Or at least that's what I felt listening to this album for the first time. That summer, when I was working for the city, doing gardening, I would listen to this album religiously. And I can honestly say it probably became one of my fave albums that year. And 5 years later... So it's 5 years later, and I thought we should break down this album track by track to see why it still rocks. Legend. Now this song is dripping with confidence. I know Started From the Bottom was also about success, but this was different. The song starts really kind of with a bare vocal sample before Drake starts layering his vocals on top. His confidence builds with the lyrics just when that trap beat kind of kicks in and everything just becomes legendary.
All I know is I'm a mother, father, legend. It's too late for my city. I'm the youngest kid here repping on my...
It's sick! Drake is really embracing his Toronto vibes here, fully referring to himself as the Sixth God in this first track. 6 is a slang term for the 6, 416. We all know this, right?
Sixth God, I'm the holy one.
Holy moly, yeah, I'm in. The song ends with a sample from Genuine's So Anxious, and it is so good. I mean, also that song on its own is also so good.
So anxious.
The production's sweet on this song. There's some little water drops, I think, happening. That's cool. Maybe it's Drake's confidence dripping into my ears. Track 2, The Energy. Everyone listens to Drake. I'm allowed to listen to Drake, okay? This song is about how all of his enemies are draining him of his energy. It's like listening to a Pokemon battle where Venusaur's using like Giga Drain and like sucking all the energy out of Drake. But who are Drake's enemies, you may ask? Versus girls, and then I guess some family people, and then mortgages, and other rap people. I do love the line, I got rap people that I gotta act like I like, but my acting days are over, F those people for life. Because remember, he was Jimmy? Production's pretty simple, it's kind of those 4 notes repeating themselves.
Doom, doom, doom.
3 notes. But Drake's energy kind of carries throughout the whole song, and that's great. Drake's lyrics kind of bring you for the ride. I want to hear more about his enemies. Am I one of Drake's enemies? Did I wrong Drake? This is classic Drake, whatever that means. Next. 3, 10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands. Now this song kind of starts off in a similar way with like repeating notes, very spaced out. But has a little bit more energy. Weird, because, you know, the last song was called Energy. And then the lyrics start. 10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands. And I was thinking, what's a band? Oh, it's money. He's talking about wealth, again. So I guess if you didn't get it by now, yeah, Drake is that businessman we all know and love. I'm just going to assume that a band is like a rubber band holding a fat wad of cash. Fat wad of cash. Regardless of what bands means, the song's catchy. And I'll repeat those words like I've known what bands are my whole life. I think what really drew me into this album in particular was hearing kind of like personal lines from Drake, like some of his actual story, like the line, I was paying mama's rent when I was turning 17. Because he was on Degrassi, and he was living with his single mom, I think, at the time, so he was paying like the rent, which is great. Great job, Drake. Is it too late for me to be on Degrassi? Yes? Also, I love the line, in the 6 cooking with the wrist motion. Again, 21-year-old me, cooking some eggs in my basement apartment, thought I was Drake, cooking in the 6 with the Track 4, Know Yourself. Now this is the song. This is what got me. It made me feel like I could do anything. Drake really turns up the city here. First verse is really just a tease for what's to come as he ends the first verse with what he starts the first verse with. I was running through the six with my woes. And then the chorus kicks in, switches up the flow, and everything is like, I was running through the six with my woes! The chorus leads right into the second verse and then back into the chorus. It's fantastic. Track 5, No Tellin'. Another banger, 5 songs in and we're just going for it. Now this mixtape at this point sounds so much more like an album because every song kind of has a similar sort of spaced out vibe. It's like minimal production but like in a huge room. Everything sounds massive. There's universal themes of success, plus all those repeating kind of like notes. Yeah, with all that being said, all the songs still sound pretty distinct from one another. So No Tellin', I feel like this is kind of the first time we really hear Drake address some of his insecurities. There's no telling if he'll get everything that he wants. He's just trying his best out there. And it's kind of nice to see another side of Drake. At this point in 2015, there's just no really way of knowing if it'll all pan out for Drake. Well, it's 2020 and I think so far it has. Again, some great lyrics from Aubrey. Suitcase, I've been living in a suitcase. I think the following summer was the first time I had to like tour across Canada for work. And I felt like I was living out of a suitcase and I finally really knew what Drake was talking about. I was like, again, I think I'm Drake. There's another beat switch halfway through the song with the
No talk, no talk.
which is a sample from a song of that same title, No Talk, by River Tiber. Track 6, Madonna. So far, this is probably the most different track that's on the album so far. It kind of breaks everything else up. Totally different beat and flow. Basically, this song is about Drake talking to a girl, saying that, if she gets with him, he can make her as big as Madonna. The song also ends with a different sample from Genuine's So Anxious. Again, if you haven't heard that song, listen to that song. It's great. But after you finish watching this, maybe liking and subscribing, that would be also great. Track 7, Six God. The song is straight hype. The song bumps the repetition of the, I admit it. I love it. It's good, it's fun. The song almost has like a little bit of a Kanye flow to it, with Drake hanging on to certain like syllables of words. I got one girl and she's my girl, yeah, nobody else can hit it. And then Drake switches it to the sing-songy Drakey we all know, love. The sing-songy Drakey. And you're like, boom, there's the 2 Drakes that I know and love in one song. Really hot up in the 6. I really think this adds to Drake's legacy as well as just putting Toronto on the map. My only problem with this track is that it should have been track 6, not track 7. You were 1 track off. Track 8, Star 67. Or is it Star 67? Star 67? Personally, the first part of the song is just kind of okay to me. Drake's talking about phone scams and making money. It's kind of a lot of the same of what we've already heard on the album so far. The instrumentals and phone call in the first half of the song kind of make that half sound more of like an interlude than anything. But then the beat switches and there's those heavy synths and the occasional phone rings. He needs to make money through those phone scams. His phone's blowing up, I guess.
I do better with a rider in my system.
The way he switches back to like the sing-songy flow to rap, helps a new listener like myself in 2015 stay interested. Track 9, Peach. Preach. We got Party Next Door literally bringing the party right off the top of the song. The anticipation slowly builds into the song and I really want to know what he's going to be preaching about. Party's auto-tune vocals kind of add like a fresh spin to this mixtape so far because pretty much at this point all we've heard is really Drake. So it's dope to hear someone else have the first chorus, verse, chorus. The song just keeps building and building, especially in the second chorus with the yeah, all the yeahs in the background. And then Drake comes and delivers this wicked second verse. Having been raised in Mississauga, I every time I hear the line, Sauga City Trip a Payday, I love it. I literally just call Mississauga Sauga City Trip a Payday now. Mississauga is also where the Party Next Door is from, so it works. Hype song, it's a fun departure from everything else that's a little bit more moody on the album. Nice little beat switch at the end, kind of gives a little bit of a Latin flair, almost hinting at the Drake to come with Passion Fruit and One Dance. Track 10, Wednesday Night Interlude. This is basically just Party Next Door doing his thing. I guess it kind of acts as a nice, segue interlude to the second half of the album. But to me, it kind of slows down the album. It's not bad, it just kind of feels weird being on the same album as Legend and Know Yourself. I dig the smooth production, but as an interlude, I wish it wasn't 3.5 minutes. Track 11, Used To, featuring Lil Wayne. The song is very similar to Six God, especially with the flow. Nothing really here separates the song from Six God to me, personally. Chorus is alright. What you say? I can kind of do without it. I know who you are at this point, Drake. I feel like Lil Wayne kind of just has a verse on here because, Lil Wayne helped Drake kind of break out into the scene. He has some alright lyrics, but Parmesan my panino. 12. Six Man. Not to be confused with Six God. This is Six Man, which maybe is Drake before he was the god? Or maybe Drake has a brother who's not a god and is simply just a man, but is also from the Six. The flow on here is a lot of fun. It kind of makes you want to dance, you know? I also love songs about, you know, the drive to be better. I'm young, but I'm making millions to work the night shift. I love this kind of rap because it's just kind of inspiring to basically anyone that if they put enough focus and energy into something that they could potentially, you know, be Drake. I also love some of the Canadian references in the song. You know the truth, let's not pretend. I'm not your friend, I'm not your guy, I'm not your buddy. As a South Park fan, I appreciate that. Track 13, Now and Forever. This song is very reminiscent of Take Care Drake. Just in the production with certain tings and the sing-song throughout. There are some parts that are very similar to Headlines, like the Take Care song. No more, no more, no more. Compared to They Know, They Know, They Know. It's basically a headline, just a little slower and with some gunshots. Also, the song seems a little long to me. We really don't need all songs this long. Next, we got Company. Who's coming over? All of them? Drake's in love with the stripper. Story of his life. He's in love with the stripper, but he's not good enough. Which is kind of a fresh approach to a Drake song. Maybe not to a Drake song, but at least to this album. I really do like the dog barking sample. There's a beat that kind of kicks in at the end, and Travis Scott's singing about how he's a dog as well. It's good. You gotta love you some Travis. I realize that my attention span starts to dwindle at this point. 15, You and the Six. I really like the song. It's kind of wholesome. It's like a love letter to his mom. You know, he's letting her know that he still thinks about her and is really thankful for everything that she's done. He knows that she follows him through the press when he doesn't get back to her. It's honest and almost kind of like the realest we kind of hear Drake. I mean, how can he not be real? He's talking directly to his mom. It's kind of beautiful. He also talks about his dad and kind of stands up for him, talking about how he was also a big part of his life growing up. It's kind of nice. He recognizes that he doesn't, you know, make enough effort to call his mom, you know? It's a nice sentiment and a reminder to people kind of living on their own, maybe in their mid-20s, and yeah, to reach back to the people who have raised you, you know? Track 16, Jungle. You know, the chorus on here is a little bit of kind of like a slower jam. It's a nice way to approach the end of an album. It's a nice little love song, very based in 2015, referencing Facebook timelines. It's a nice track. I found it a little bit more background than anything, especially with over 5 minutes. I mean, come on, Drizzy, we got things to do. And finally, track number 17, 6 p.m. in New York. Now, this song is like basically a straight up verse, just calling out people, just a continuous verse. He's calling out different people in the rap game, and I'm sure in 2015 the song was very hype. For me, having never listened to Drake and this being my first kind of Drake album in 2015, none of it was really relevant to me, and I had no idea what was happening in the rap game. So I personally could have done without, and I would have been fine if the album ended with You and the Six. So there you go. And honestly, re-listening to this album 5 years later, it probably was one of the first times I really listened to it again. And in hindsight, I gotta say, I really love the first half of this album. It's so hype. It really encompasses the energy and confidence of Drake. The first half is so new and punchy that it kind of makes the second half of the album kind of drag on. Not bad or anything, it's just, you know, I grow a little impatient. But again, I'll always come back to the first half of this album, and I love those tracks so much. So, you know, with all that being said, I'd probably give this album 6.5 OVO owls out of 10. It's great, I just wish it was a little shorter for my attention span. Join my progression as I continue to listen to new and old music. So sub, like, or take a hike. Until next time, peace. Oh, also, thank you for watching this kind of retrospective. I wanted to do a retrospective on this album because I bought it on vinyl about 5 years ago, and I kind of want to go through all my records on certain anniversary dates and kind of re-listen and rediscover certain things about them. I remember I bought this from a Toronto record store. It was definitely a bootleg. It says limited edition, kind of like a pinkish see-through vinyl. Nice little like smoky pink, you know? I'll throw the Discogs link in the description as well if you want to check out which one it is and maybe compare it to yours. I don't know. Yeah, thanks again.